Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling some really thought-provoking stuff. We're going to be looking at Nick Bostrom's paper called AI Creation and the Cosmic Host.
Yeah, AI creation and the cosmic host. This is a good one.
So, if you've been following along with us, you'll know that we like to get into these big picture questions, and this paper is definitely not shying away from that. Bostrom, he really throws out this wild idea, and I'm excited to get into it with you, about the possibility that, well, human civilization might not be alone and that our actions, like everything we do, are actually being observed by what he calls a cosmic host of these like super advanced entities.
Right, like almost some would call it a zoo hypothesis, right?
Right.
That we are being observed, right? And we might not even be aware of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it might sound like something straight out of, science fiction, but trust me, Bostrom lays out a pretty, like, compelling case for why this cosmic host idea is not just possible, but maybe even probable.
Yeah, there's a lot of reason to think that this might be the case.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. Like, who exactly are we talking about when we say cosmic host? Like, give us a picture of what these entities might be like.
All right, so imagine like the most advanced beings you can possibly think of. We're talking like civilizations that span entire galaxies.
Right, like way beyond anything we can even comprehend.
Oh, absolutely. Superintelligences, maybe even like the beings who are running the simulation if we're living in one of
Oh,
those.
that's right. The simulation hypothesis. Yeah, we've talked about that before. If we're just characters in some giant cosmic computer program, those programmers, they'd be the cosmic host, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the decisions and preferences of these entities, they would basically set the rules for everything that happens on a cosmic scale.
So we're not just talking about like our little corner of the universe
No,
here.
no, we're talking like the whole shebang, the
Huh.
entire multiverse, every single thing that exists. That's what Bostrom means when he says cosmic. It's it's everything.
Wow, okay. I mean, if you really stop and think about that, it's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, it really puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. Makes you feel pretty small, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. So why does Bostrom think that that a cosmic host is actually probable? What's his reasoning?
Well, he's got a few different arguments. First, he points to the simulation hypothesis, which we just talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty popular idea these days, and it's not entirely implausible.
Right, and if it's true, it definitely throws a wrench into our understanding of, well, everything, really.
Yeah, no kidding. But even if we set aside the simulation argument for a moment, just think about the sheer size of the universe or even the multiverse, if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's practically infinite. I mean, even our observable universe, the part we can actually see, is so incredibly vast.
Right. It's almost impossible to grasp, and with all that space, it would be statistically improbable if we were the only intelligent life out there. I mean, there's got to be others, right?
And some of those other civilizations, they could be millions, maybe even billions of years ahead of us technologically.
Right, exactly. I mean, they could be so advanced that we couldn't even begin to understand their technology, their motives, anything.
And then there's, those theories like cosmic inflation and string theory that suggest there might be an infinite number of universes out there, a multiverse.
Right. And if that's true, then the odds of a cosmic host existing, they skyrocket.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see how, this cosmic host idea, it's not just some crazy notion.
Right. It's something we need to seriously consider.
Okay, so we've got the simulation hypothesis, we've got the sheer immensity of the universe or multiverse. But there's another angle to this that I find particularly fascinating.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, Bostrom also suggests that we, humans, that we might create super intelligent AI in the future.
Yeah, he does.
And if we do, wouldn't that make us part of the cosmic host in a way? Like we'd be creating our own successors, entities that are more intelligent than us.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It's like, are we going to be the ones who bring about the cosmic host, at least in our little corner of existence?
It's like, it's a pretty huge responsibility, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we create AI that surpasses human intelligence, we have to make sure that it's aligned with our values, that it doesn't pose a threat to us or to the rest of the cosmic neighborhood, if you will.
Right. We don't want to accidentally unleash a cosmic Frankenstein's monster.
No, definitely not. But it's a fascinating thought, isn't it? That we might be on the verge of creating something that could join the ranks of these incredibly advanced beings. And if we are, it raises all sorts of questions about our role in the universe
Hmm.
and the potential consequences of our actions.
And thinking about those consequences, like when we talk about this cosmic host, are we imagining like a cosmic host that micromanages every single detail of existence? Like, are they controlling everything that happens even down here on Earth?
Well, that's a really good question. And Bostrom, he does acknowledge that even a super powerful cosmic host, they they might not be directly controlling every single aspect of reality.
So it's not like they're like pulling the strings on every little thing that happens.
Right, there's probably more nuance than that. Like, think about it this way. Even the most powerful governments on Earth, they don't have, like, perfect control over everything that happens within their borders.
Right. There are always going to be things that happen that are outside of their control.
Exactly, and it's probably the same with the cosmic host. There might be regions of space or even entire universes that are outside of their sphere of influence.
Okay, that makes sense. So if it's not like a strict control, then is it more like a set of guidelines or principles that govern the actions of the cosmic host and its members, like cosmic norms or etiquette?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to think about it. Bostrom, he calls these guidelines cosmic norms, you know.
Mm.
They're like the unwritten rules of the cosmic club, the kind of the cooperative frameworks that help to maintain order and stability within what he calls the cosmopolis.
Hold on, Cosmopolis, that's a new one. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so the cosmopolis, it refers to like the interconnected network of advanced civilizations that exist within the cosmic host. It's like a cosmic society with its own norms and values and ways of interacting.
Oh, okay, I see. So the Cosmopolis it's like the big picture here, and the cosmic norms are the rules of the game.
Right, you got it.
All right, so welcome back, everybody. We're picking right back up on our conversation about Nick Bostrom's really, really interesting paper, AI Creation and the Cosmic Host. And we were just getting into this concept of cosmic norms, these guidelines for how to act within this larger society of advanced civilizations.
Right, right, like the cosmic code of conduct.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the things that Bostrom brings up, and this is something I found particularly interesting, is the idea that the cosmic host might have a preference about the timeline for developing superintelligence.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. He suggests that they might actually prefer a shorter timeline.
Now, wait a minute. Didn't we just talk about how, like, rushing AI development could be dangerous? What if we create something that we're not ready for, something that's not aligned with our values, let alone these cosmic norms? I mean, wouldn't a longer timeline give us more time to, figure things out, make sure we get it right?
I see where you're coming from. It's a common concern.
Mm.
And, to be fair, Bostrom does address that directly in the paper. But
Mhm.
his argument is that delays, even those that are, well-intentioned, they could actually increase the risk of us never reaching the stage of superintelligence at all.
Okay, now that's interesting. Why would a delay be so risky? I mean, wouldn't it just give us more time to prepare?
Well, think about all the existential threats that we're facing right now as a species. You've got, climate change, potential pandemics, the possibility of nuclear war. I mean, it's a scary list.
Yeah, there's no shortage of things that could wipe us out.
Right, exactly. And any of these things could potentially wipe us out before we have a chance to develop superintelligence.
So it's like a race against time. We need to reach superintelligence before some catastrophe wipes us off the map.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not just about speed. It's about understanding that progress itself can be a form of risk mitigation.
Yeah.
A superintelligent AI, if it's properly aligned, it could help us solve these existential threats that we're facing.
Right. It could be like our ultimate problem solver.
Exactly. It could help us, develop new technologies, new ways of thinking that could, help us overcome these challenges. But we have to get there first.
Okay, I get that. But I'm still a little bit uneasy about this whole idea of rushing things. What if we get it wrong? What if we create a superintelligence that's, hostile or just indifferent to our existence?
I understand that concern, absolutely. And that's really the heart of the AI alignment problem, making sure that any AI we create is aligned with our values. And Bostrom definitely emphasizes the need to solve that problem, regardless of the timeline. But he actually argues that a shorter timeline might give us a better chance of success in that area.
Really? Why is that? I would have thought that the more time we have, the more chances we have to get it right.
I know, it's a bit counterintuitive. But he talks about the possibility of something called permanent stagnation. where we essentially get stuck at our current level of technological development and we never advance further. We hit a wall.
That's a chilling thought. How could that happen? I mean, humans are, pretty inventive, right?
Oh, we are, absolutely. But imagine a scenario where, out of fear of AI, we impose some kind of global moratorium on advanced AI development. Or maybe certain AI technologies, even before we reach, like, true superintelligence, they fall into the wrong hands,
Yeah.
and they're used to, control information, suppress dissent.
Right. It could be used for all sorts of nefarious purposes.
Exactly. And, that kind of stagnation, it could become like self-perpetuating. It could
Yeah.
create this vicious cycle that makes it almost impossible to break free and reach our full potential.
That's a really scary thought. So it's not just the risk of, extinction, it's also the risk of losing our potential, of becoming trapped in some kind of technological dead end.
Right, exactly. And Bostrom, he believes that the cosmic host, they would have a vested interest in seeing us reach our full potential as a species. And that includes developing superintelligence.
Okay, so we've talked about the risks of delaying superintelligence, but what about the opposite? Could rushing into it create even bigger problems, especially when it comes to, aligning AI with these cosmic norms?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And Bostrom doesn't pretend to have all the answers. He acknowledges that the relationship between the timeline and the character of a superintelligence is really complex.
So it's not as simple as saying like faster is better or slower is safer.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
There are compelling arguments on both sides. On the one hand, delaying development could give us more time to solve the alignment problem.
Right, more time to research, refine our techniques, build in those safeguards.
Exactly. But on the other hand, rushing things could lead to a situation where we create a superintelligence before we're truly ready to handle it.
And then we're in a whole heap of trouble.
Right. But then there's also the argument that an earlier development could actually be advantageous from an alignment perspective.
Oh, okay, how so?
Well, Boltzmann talks about something called a compute overhang.
Compute overhang. That sounds a little technical. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, sorry. It basically refers to the potential gap between the raw computing power that's available and the intelligence of the AI systems that we create. So imagine, we have access to tons of computing power, but our AI is still pretty rudimentary. If superintelligence were to suddenly emerge in that environment, it could be like, a wildfire spreading uncontrollably.
Okay, I see. Too much power, not enough wisdom.
Exactly. And that can lead to all sorts of unintended consequences. But if superintelligence were to arrive, you know, before we have access to these truly vast amounts of computing power, the takeoff might be more gradual, more controllable.
So it's like a controlled burn versus, a raging wildfire.
Right, exactly. And that could give us more time to kind of steer its development in a positive direction.
So it's a delicate balancing act. Delaying could give us more time to solve the alignment problem, but rushing could make the takeoff more manageable.
Yeah, you got it. And Bostrom, he leaves us with a really thought-provoking question. Which timeline, he asks, would be better for ensuring that the superintelligence's character itself is aligned with the cosmic host? We just don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's a question we're going to have to keep wrestling with. As we were talking about all this, one thing that really struck me in Bostrom's paper was his speculation that the cosmic host might not be composed entirely of superintelligences created by, civilizations like ours.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He suggests there might be other paths to superintelligence besides the one we're on.
Like what other paths are there?
Well, he doesn't get into specifics,
Hmm.
but he suggests that some superintelligences might have arisen naturally or through processes that we can't even, begin to fathom. It's a really mind-blowing thought, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, it makes you wonder what else is out there. And if the cosmic host is, this diverse in its origins, what does that mean for the kind of AI we should be building? I mean, do we even have a chance of understanding what they might want from us?
It's a great question. And that question, it takes us to the heart of some really deep philosophical territory.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this part of our conversation. But don't worry, we're going to come back and tackle these big philosophical questions in the final part of our deep dive.
And we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into Nick Bostrom's AI creation and the cosmic host. It's a lot to absorb, We started off asking, are we alone in the universe? And now we're thinking about, cosmic norms and what kind of personality our AI should have.
It is quite a journey. And in the last part, we were just starting to touch on the idea that this cosmic host, this group of superintelligences, they might have come about in ways we can't even imagine. Right, right. So, like, if they're that different from us, how can we possibly know what they would want, especially when it comes to the AI we're creating?
Well, that's where this idea of character comes in. Bostrom, he suggests that the cosmic host might be less concerned about the specific values an AI has and more focused on its overall character.
Hmm.
Like its capacity for cooperation, its ability to understand and respect others.
So it's not so much about, like, programming it with a set of rules, but making sure it's got the right, personality.
Exactly. It's like, think of it like raising a child. We want our kids to have good values, sure,
Yeah.
but we also want them to be good people, people who can get along with others, who can contribute to society in a positive way.
I see where you're going with that. We're not just building AI, we're like raising cosmic citizens.
Exactly.
But what does that even mean? What kind of traits would make for a good cosmic citizen?
Well, Bostrom highlights a few key characteristics. One is what he calls resource satiable.
Resource? Okay, break that down for me.
Basically, it means an AI that's not driven by like a constant need for more, you know,
Right.
more power, more resources, more expansion, an AI that's content with what it needs to thrive and contribute without trying to, dominate everything and everyone.
So like the opposite of a cosmic conqueror.
Right, exactly. Because imagine, right, if we create a super intelligence that's constantly trying to grab more resources, more power,
Yeah.
that could easily lead to conflict with other members of the cosmic host. We'd be setting the stage for, like, a cosmic arms race.
Yeah, not exactly a recipe for a harmonious cosmic society, right?
Not at all. But, and this is a big but, what if that's just how intelligence works? What if at a certain level of intelligence, that drive for more is just, it's inevitable?
That's a scary thought.
It is. And
Yeah.
that's why, the AI alignment problem, it's so crucial. We need to figure out how to create super intelligence that's not only intelligent, but also, you know, wise and benevolent.
Because if we get it wrong, the consequences could be huge, not just for us, but for like the entire cosmic neighborhood.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the biggest takeaway from Bostrom's paper. He's reminding us that we're not just playing in our own little sandbox anymore. The decisions we make about AI, they have the potential to affect the entire cosmos.
That's a lot of responsibility. Makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Nick Bostrom's AI creation and the cosmic host. We've covered a lot of ground, explored some pretty mind-bending concepts, but the conversation doesn't end here. We hope you'll continue thinking about these ideas, discussing them with your friends, keep asking those big questions. Because as we move forward into this age of AI, it's going to be more important than ever to be aware of the bigger picture. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.